Good day, everyone. My name is Michael Angelo Dito Mala, and this is my group mates Loredo Liam Stanley, Pepito Noel John, Serrano Shemred, and Verde Regina Rose. And we are here to present our group assessment in CCS 106. Mr. A has this Estafa case, and the case reached the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, he lost the case. As we all know, when a case reaches the Supreme Court, the same is published in every website discussing Philippine jurisprudence. Now, every time someone key in his name in the web search engines, the Estafa case is displayed as one of its results. Due to such, Mr. A suffered humiliation and embarrassment from people who chance upon such search results of his name. Because of this, he wants his name be removed from such websites and he therefore invokes his constitutional right to privacy. So, the question is, can a person request that his name be removed from such websites pertaining to Supreme Court decided cases as the same is a violation of his right to privacy? Why or why not? A person cannot request their names to be removed from such websites pertaining to Supreme Court decided cases. Under the RA 10173 Data Privacy Act of 2012, any organizations who deal with your personal details, whereabouts, and preferences are duty bound to observe and respect your data privacy rights. These organizations cannot collect, store, and use any of your personal data without your direct consent. This is not the case for Mr. A, however. The published websites about the Estafa case was published by the Supreme Court itself in the Philippines jurisprudence. It does not, however, pertain to the personal information of Mr. A rather than his article of the case he lost.
According to the Rule on Access to Information about the Supreme Court by the Republic of the Philippines Supreme Court, Chapter 3, Section 7, Supreme Court shall afford full protection to a person's right to privacy, particularly the sensitive information of the specific person, meaning that the published article is not violating any privacy rights of Mr. A. He has no right any whatsoever to sue the Supreme Court in violation of his privacy because his privacy is still protected. According to the Rule on Access to Information about the Supreme Court by the Republic of the Philippines Supreme Court, Chapter 2, Section 5, personal information is any kind of information from which the identity of the person who owns the information can be immediately discovered or when combined with additional information would clearly and certainly identify an individual. As stated above, the published websites by the Supreme Court that features the details about the Estafa case appears as a search engine result when a person searches for Mr. A's name. This means that the person who typed Mr. A's name into the search engine has already knew Mr. A's identity from other possible sources. It is not stated that any of Mr. A's personal information was shared or distributed and is being accessed by the public as a result of the Supreme Court's published website articles about the Estafa case. Thus, this does not violate any of Mr. A's privacy.
Identity thief and identity fraud are terms used to refer to all types of crimes includes mail thief, child ID thief, and tax ID thief, etc., in which someone wrongfully obtains and uses another person's personal data in some way that involves fraud and deception, typically for economic gain. Being victimized in this way can leave you feeling violated, anxious, and unsafe. Personal information could include your full name, home address, email address, online login and passwords, passport number, or bank account number. Once this information accessed, they may use it to commit identity theft or sell it on the dark web. In some cases, it can be difficult to prove that identity theft occurred, giving way to anger and frustration. The stress can even take a toll on you physically, and when it comes in an organization, it will be very controversial, especially for their clients, because they hold the personal information of these people and that people's information can be used by someone to do bad things without their knowledge. And when it comes to their clients, will be traumatized and may no longer trust any organization when it comes to their data or even any transaction. So, recommendation and conclusion are that we should always be careful with when it comes the information that we provide. We must make sure that those who provide it in abundance are trustworthy and not used for evil deeds. When it comes to trusting the organization, we must make sure that they are really secured to reassure us that your information is safe. And now that social media is vogue, I can only advise you to put not all your information there because it can also be used for evil activities, especially in these today times when scams are in vogue. And make sure that the personal information data is in the safe place where no one can breach and use it to malicious activities.
According to due process, no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied an equal protection under the law. Legal issues must be addressed in accordance with established laws and principles, and people must be treated fairly. Both civil and criminal cases are subject to due process. The due process is an important thing to have a person but on trial in a fair and just manner. Without it, many people will be abused and imprisoned without having a chance to prove themselves. Remember that human rights must be violated, that everyone must have a fair chance, and no discrimination can occur in anyone's life.
Due process has two aspects, which is procedural and substantive due process. First, procedural due process of law wherein limits the state and federal power by requiring certain procedures to be followed in both criminal and civil matters. The right to be free from unreasonable search and seizures under the Fourth Amendment, the right to a jury trial, the right to have an attorney, and the right to remain silent are all instances of procedural due process protection. It is the assurance of procedural due process that assures you that if you are accused, you will have your day in court and that your trial will be conducted fairly by a jury of your peer. You must argue that your procedural due process rights were violated if the procedures utilized to gather evidence and method used to achieve a conviction were flawed. This can result in evidence being excluded from court proceeding if it was obtained unlawfully, as well as the reversal of a conviction. While the concept of substantive due process is based on the idea that the Constitution protects citizens from unjustified government intervention that violates the fundamental right, when the government approves legislation that infringe on life, liberty, or property right, although the instruction does not explicitly guarantee the right to privacy, substantive due process has been considered in order to establish one. The Supreme Court ruled in 1905 that a New York legislative ordinance controlling bakers' working hours was unconstitutional because the bakers were denied the freedom to choose their own term of labor. In the century since court ruling, courts have constantly contended that the Constitution's due process requirements severely limit the government's ability to enforce law that restrict liberty. Only fair, reasonable, and in support of legitimate government purpose may the government make legislation affecting a person's basic right. Support on legitimate government purpose may the government make legislation affecting a person's basic right. Life without due process is a heinous crime. Without it, an innocent person can be imprisoned. As a result, we should value the affirm it even more, for no more innocent people will be imprisoned who have not even had equal rights in trial. Never take away a man's hope, especially his freedom. That's all for this presentation. Thank you.